Okay, tonight's share is for Zchus for Refuah Shalema for Nachum Yitzchak ben Tema. I want to start with a thought about preparing for Pesach, which we're all, deep into Pesach preparation, and then to move on to the Seder to talk about some perspective on the Seder. Okay, I heard a ha'ara this past Shabbos that was it impacted me a lot. It was very, very meaningful to me. It's fascinating that Parshas Vayikra starts with Hashem calling Moshe, Vayikra el Moshe, Vayedaber Hashem Elav. And Rashi says that the truth is that every single time Hashem spoke to Moshe, it was preceded by a calling Moshe. Meaning that Hashem, in a loving way, every time he wanted to speak to Moshe, l'chol dibros, u'l'chol amiros, u'l'chol tzivuyim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, 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 like my beloved Moshe. And Moshe responded, Hineni, I'm here, I'm ready. Nasa v'nishma, I'm ready to take this on. And the Sfarim say that you see from here that whenever Hashem has a commandment for us, whenever Hashem has a mitzvah for us, whenever Hashem has a mission for us, Hashem is calling us to that mission. Like Moshe, Hashem's calling us by name with love, summoning us, giving us the opportunity to participate in Malchus Shemayim, the opportunity to participate in serving Him. And we have an opportunity to respond to that by saying Hineni. Now, that doesn't mean that we say Hineni, the word Hineni necessarily, but rather with our actions and with our emotions and with our attitudes, we express Hineni. When a person is schleppy and in a bad mood and reluctant and forgets and so on, it's hard to hear the Hineni. When you tell your son to clear off the table, and then you come back an hour later and food is still there, so you remind him again. He's like, oh, I forgot. Okay, and then you come back a little later and he took a cup off the table. You're like, there's another 100 items on the table, whatever it is. You're not hearing, and don't worry, he'll grow up. I'm not, but you're not hearing Hineni. You're not hearing that. But when you say, can you do something, by the time the words are out of your mouth, he's like, of course. There's a certain Hineni, like he's getting it done. He's focused. He's interested. So I heard this amazing thing. We talked about this a few weeks ago. This is like a little bit of an addition to something we spoke about a few weeks ago. We spoke about the kiyar. We spoke about that the kiyar is a vessel that was used for the Kohanim to wash their hands and feet before they served in the Beis HaMikdash. And we talked about the chiddush of the kiyar, that it doesn't really belong in the Beis HaMikdash. It's a preparation. Remember we talked about the kitchen of the hall? You remember that? It's like, it's not really, the chandeliers don't have to be hanging in the kitchen. So we said, but with the kiyar, it's not that way. It was this beautiful copper sink as one of the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash. And we understood from there that preparing for a mitzvah, making oneself ready to fulfill a mitzvah, is also part of the mitzvah. This Shabbos, I heard something that blows that up to another level. Okay? So we know where the kiyar came from, right? You all know that the kiyar was made out of the women's mirrors. They used to use polished metal as mirrors, and they had copper mirrors, and they donated their mirrors to Moshe Rabbeinu to make the kiyur. Okay, I didn't mention that in the shiur last time, but I assume that all of you know that. And what's meaningful about that is that a mirror is also used for preparation. Interesting, no? So a mirror that's used for preparation created the keli, which is used for preparation. How big was the kiyur?
It's huge.
Is that what it says in the Torah? Make a huge kiyur?
No, it gives specific.
It does not.
Doesn't it?
No. It does not say a size. How much copper do you need? We're collecting copper. How much do you need? I don't know. How much do we need? Doesn't say. The Aron, we know exactly its dimensions. The Shulchan, we know its dimensions. The Mizbeach, we know its dimensions. The Krashim, we know its dimensions. The Urios, the curtains, the roof, we know its dimensions. Everything we know its dimensions. How big was the kiyur? Doesn't say. Isn't that interesting?
It talks about the feet on the bottom.
Oh, so the Even Ezra says that the kiyur, you know what the size of the kiyur was? As many mirrors as get donated to the Mishkan. That's interesting, no? It's a little. It could have been enormous, yeah. It's interesting that it was like a little backwards. Like usually we say this is what we need. When we do a fundraiser, right? So we do, this is as much money, this is what it costs to run the shul. This is what it costs to do this tzedakah, or raising money for someone's surgery. This is how much the surgery costs, right? And then we try to raise money because that's the need. We don't ever do a fundraiser like, we're raising money. So how much money do you need? I don't know how much we're going to raise. Usually, that's backwards. Usually we have something that we need. So the kalim and the Beis HaMikdash are specific needs. The kiyur wasn't that way. The kiyur was unlimited. You know why? Because the kiyur represents preparing ourselves for the mitzvah. It's not the mitzvah itself. It's preparing ourselves, and preparing is infinite. Preparing is the passion, the excitement, the motivation. There's no share for those things. Those are things that, as large as your heart grows, preparing for a mitzvah, Hashem will take it all. Hashem is makabel all of it. Hashem's like, okay, you're prepared, that's enough. No, all of the excitement and all of the yearning and all of the kaichais that you put in, Hashem is makabel all of that as part of the mitzvah. So maybe you're going to put 3 matzahs on your Seder table. Even if you're super excited, please don't put 4. Okay, because the mitzvah is to have 3. According to the Vilna Gaon, the mitzvah is to have 2. And we're going to have 2 Sedarim here in Chutz La'aretz. Please don't make a 3rd Seder, even though there are 3 nights. Please, if you're in the mood, please don't make a 3rd Seder, because the mitzvah is to have 2. And even if you say, but even after 2, I want to sing Hallel again. I want to praise Hashem again. I want to thank Hashem again. I'm not done. I'm sorry, but the mitzvah is 2 nights, not 3 nights. But when it comes to the passion and the love and the emotion and that goes into preparing, into the foundation that you lay for the mitzvah, as big as you make it, Hashem will take it all. So that's what Rabbi Sachs said, this explanation on Shabbos. It was unbelievable. And the way he said it was, he said to us, how long does it take to eat the matzah that you need to eat? He said, don't take too long. You have to do it within a few minutes. But you could spend hours preparing to eat that matzah, right? Or days. Tzaddikim would spend a month preparing for that mitzvah. So I think it's a valuable thing. I discussed this with the men last night, at length. I want to get onto other topics in this shiur. Last night I made this the entire topic of the shiur. But, the women of Klal Yisrael are working hard, getting ready for Yantif. Many women are cooking and preparing for Yantif. Many women are cleaning their houses. And even those that are going away for Yantif are packing and shopping and trying to think of what all the kids need and trying to work it all out. And there's a lot of kayach that goes into it. And it's important to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there, shepping nachas from it. and appreciating all the toil. And hopefully that could help us feel positive in doing it, and a certain joy. This is also part of the Avodah. Sometimes we feel like we're in that, the not fancy kitchen part of Yantif, right? The preparation. It's the not pretty part, before people Instagram pictures of their Seder table, which it does not say in Shulchan Aruch that you should do. It says to have a very pretty Pesach table, but it does not say any Indian of Instagramming that table. But before the pretty Pesach table comes all the work that leads up to that Seder table. And sometimes we feel like all of that is just like the unsung part of it. That's the part before. That's like I'm just stuck doing that stuff to try to get there. And I think that this idea about the Kiyar and this Vayikra El Moshe, that every mitzvah Hashem calls to us, and when we prepare for Yantif with our heart and soul, that's our Hineni. That's our saying, Hashem, you have a job for me and I am ready. I am preparing myself. I'm preparing my home. I'm preparing my family. I'm getting ready to do this mitzvah. So, I told Mrs. Feld this is our last shiur before Yantif. Of course, besides for the Shabbos HaGadol Drasha, Mirz Hashem next Shabbos. But I wanted to at least mention a little bit about preparing for Pesach, this concept of trying to prepare with all of our geschmack, with all of, with yearning. I was thinking about those mirrors, and I was envisioning this young Kala getting ready for her chasana, looking in the mirror as she prepares herself for her chasana. And I was thinking about how much cheshek and how much joy and how much anticipation is how did that mirror absorb? How much yearning did that mirror see? And I was thinking that belongs all on the Kiyar, because we channel all of that to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The same kind of preparing ourselves and looking forward to meeting with Hashem and looking forward to being with Hashem and looking forward to deepening our relationship with Hashem. It's interesting, right? That's our preparing. It's our looking in the mirror. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the Seder itself. And the Seder is a big job. There's a mitzvah to teach children the story of the Haggadah, and it's mostly the father's mitzvah. But all the mitzvahs of the night apply to women as well. And participating in the Seder is sometimes challenging. Whether you're the one making the Seder or even if you're the one attending the Seder, it's challenging. They don't teach us about this in yeshiva, where like what to do when your wife has to leave the Seder to feed the baby, and then she has to leave again because the baby didn't go to sleep, and then she has to leave again because he woke up a second time, and then she has to leave again because now the other baby woke up, right? And it's very hard to find that in Shulchan Aruch. It's there, don't worry, they've been doing it for 3,500 years, but it's a challenge, and and the ability that women have to try to stay plugged into the Seder, even if sometimes it means skipping part of the Haggadah and trying to jump in and making sure that you did all the important parts and all of that. And it is important to know and to try to clarify before, look, what do I have to do and what do I not have to do? That's a good idea to have clear. But this is the beauty of the way that women spend the Seder, taking care of their families and plugging into the beauty of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And the two are connected because it's thanks to Yetzias Mitzrayim that we have the beautiful families we have. It's also part of our celebration. One of the moments of the Haggadah that kind of lays out the plan for the night is the four sons. Keneged Arba Banim Dibra Torah, the four sons. The four sons reminds us that there's no one-size-fits-all chinuch, right? That's mamish, the message of why do we say that? It's very clear. The Torah is telling us straight out, this is not, you don't need Rabbi Kalish for this. This is the Haggadah. We need Rabbi Kalish, but we don't need him for this. Okay? It's very clear that each child needs their own chinuch, because that's what it says in the Haggadah. Right? Is there any other way to understand that? Why do we sit by the Haggadah? There are four kinds of children. You want to tell me now how many kinds of trees there are? Like, why are you saying that? Clearly, it's the night of telling the story of the Seder. It's the night of teaching our children Emunah. And the Haggadah is cautioning us to be aware of our children. It's clear. I want to share with you an idea from the Pachad Yitzchak it's a profound and clear idea, but there's also a depth underneath it. And it's the kind of idea that's very, very practical for us ultimately in being mechanech our children. Okay? So the Haggadah describes 4 children, right? The questions of each one of the 4 children. How many answers are there? 4 answers. No. There are 3 answers. Because we give the same answer to the Rasha and to the She'eno Yedei Elisha. Let me explain. The Chacham, he's the one who's interested. The Chacham is interested, he's curious, he's involved. And and the Chacham asks for all the details. He wants to know all the halachas. What's the answer? All the halachas. Right? We get into it with him. That's a long Seder, That's a deep, involved Seder, all the halachas. The Rasha says, what on earth are you doing? Is that basically the Rasha? What on earth are you doing? The Yerushalmi adds to the Rasha's question, like, what are you doing? That's the Rasha says, right? Maho avoda azois lachem. Haitzias atzvei min haklal, right? He removes himself from the klal. I don't know how my phone was not on silent. What do we answer him? Oh, the Yerushalmi, I was saying the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says that the Chacham is like, why are we working so hard? Why are we burdening ourselves? It's the opposite of my hineni that I was just talking about. I resent all this. What do we answer him? We answer him tough. We answer him that ba'avor zeh, because of this ability, this zechus to do mitzvahs, Asa Hashem li b'tzeisi mitzrayim. Hashem took me out of Mitzrayim. He took me out of Mitzrayim because I'm interested in doing these things. Had you been there, you may not have made it out of Mitzrayim, right? Leave eloi loi, ilu hayasham loi hayanigel. Now it's important. People, especially Bizman Hazeh, get a little bit caught off guard that we're so tough on the Rasha, right? It doesn't. That's why we need Rabbi Kalish. Like we're so tough on the Rasha, but I like to point out that there's actually a message there that's an unbelievably loving message. Is this Rasha part of Klal Yisrael? Is he? He is. We tell the Rasha, if you would have been there, you wouldn't have come out. But you weren't there. Your forefathers were there. And they wanted this. And that's why you're part of Klal Yisrael. You realize that? So there's something incredibly loving and embracing that we tell the Rasha, the way you're acting, you don't really belong part of the Klal. But you're grandfathered in, literally. That is the term, grandfathered in. And you still have a chance, and you could still join us and be part of this. You're not excluded. You can't exclude yourself. There's nothing you could do. You cannot lose your membership to this club. You'll always be a member. That's something beautiful there, right? But anyway, we definitely speak strongly to the Rasha. Maybe it's a layered strongly, but we speak strongly to the Rasha. But the pasuk that we tell the Rasha is Ba'avor zeh asa Hashem li b'tzeisi mitzrayim. Then comes the Tam. The Tam, the simple child, says, Mazois, what is all this? So we understand that as a simpler, he's interested. We caught his attention. He's curious about what's going on here. He wants to know why we keep taking the food away and we're talking so much before we eat. He's trying to figure out what's going on here. He sees there are strange foods on the table. He wants to understand it. And we answer him simply. B'chayzik yad haitzi Hashem. As Avesenu, Hashem was with tremendous strength. Hashem took our forefathers out of Mitzrayim. He asks a simple question, and we give him a simple answer. She'eni Yadei Elisha, the one that doesn't know how to ask, so he doesn't have a question. He doesn't ask a question. So we have to approach him and say, hey, I got to tell you something. Now, I want to point out that regardless of the pictures that you might have in your Haggadah, the She'eni Yadei Elisha is sometimes the baby or something. I don't know. No? Right? Yeah. Illustrations. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's not emes. Maybe it's describing the inner child. I don't know, maybe. I don't know, we could see. But the She'eni Yadei Elisha, it's not, the She'eni Yadei Elisha is not unwise. He could be very wise. He's not interested. He doesn't know to ask. It doesn't mean that he's like so dumb that he doesn't know to ask. It's not what it means. It means that all this stuff is going on and he doesn't feel connected with it. It's not inspired. It's not waking up his curiosity. He's not saying, what is going on here? He doesn't realize that his life depends on this. He doesn't realize how important this is. He doesn't realize how meaningful it is. He doesn't realize how enriching it could be. This is something we suffer from, Bisman Hazeh. You know, that children, teenagers, and many times adults have their whole Yiddishkeit, this whole vibrant Yiddishkeit, but they just don't realize how precious it is and how important it is and how vital it is, and they just skim over it without taking an interest and being curious. So we need to tell the She'eni Yadei Elisha that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, so we should live this life. This is our everything. So what do we tell the She'eni Yadei Elisha? Ba'avur zeh asa Hashem li b'tzeisi b'Mitzrayim. Familiar pasuk? It's the same answer as the Rasha. Interesting. 4 sons, 3 answers. The Chacham gets his answer. The Tam gets his answer. But the Rasha and the She'eni Yadei Elisha only get the same answer. There's a little bit of a different nuance. We'll get to that later. But we use the same pasuk. 4 sons, 3 answers. Why? Interesting, right? It's amazing how many times you can read the Haggadah and not notice it, you know? We actually say that pasuk of Ba'avur Zeh another 2 times in the Haggadah. You could look out for it. So the pshat is like this. This is the understanding. It's very, very profound. There are 2 conditions to telling the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. One is that you tell the story to another person, to tell the story. Okay, if someone's eating the Seder alone, they're not able to do that mitzvah. But the mitzvah is to tell the story to another person. You know, in its most pure form, it's to tell it to your children. Not everyone eats the Seder with their children, or not everyone has children. So you tell it to your spouse, you tell it to your friend, you tell it to your neighbor, or you listen to it from the people that you're with. There's this telling. That's what we do. We get together and we have this conversation about the about Yetzias Mitzrayim. But there's another part of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and that is that we specifically do it in a manner of question and answer. We're very into questions the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Ma'anishtana, avadim hayinu, right? We always want the children to ask, right? Many of us reward our children when they ask a question. We want questions and answers. You could tell a story to someone without any questions, or they don't have to ask a question, but those are the 2 things. Tell the story to someone and answer questions. Get questions and answer questions, right? Make sense? Okay. The Chacham has a question. Ma ha'edos is intense. Ma ha'edos v'achukim v'hamishpatim asher tziva Hashem eschem. And we answer him. Intense. Kehilchos HaPesach. We teach him all the halachas of the Pesach. The Tam, he has his question. Question and answer, right? Ma zois. That's also a question. We answer it. B'choizek yad. Hashem didn't nisim and took us out of Mitzrayim. The She'eni Yadei Elisha, we're not able to do the question and answer thing with him. He doesn't have a question. So we do the other part that we can, which is we tell the story to him. But we're not getting a question, right? You agree? We're not getting he's Eina Yodei Elisha. We're not getting a question from him. We can't do the question and answer part, but we can tell him the story. So we have our narrative, and we tell it to him, despite the fact that he didn't ask a question. Now, my question to you is, did the Rasha ask a question? So, on the surface, you'd be like, he asked a question. What are you doing? If you were the one who was hearing the Rasha say that, would you feel like someone asked you a question? That's not a question. It's a critique and a late sanus that's disguised as a question. You know, sometimes people say a hurtful thing, like, I'm just asking. Are you always so stupid? I'm just asking. I'm just a question. Like, that's not a question. Right? Very manipulative people sometimes, they could, Is the Rasha asking, seriously, is the Rasha asking a question? No, he's bashing. I don't want to do this. I'm not interested in this. So that's also not a question. Says Rav Hutner, when children ask questions, we can cater our answer to their questions. So that's why the Chacham gets one answer and the Tam gets another answer. But when the children aren't asking questions, so then it's harder to design the right answer for each child because we're not learning from their question of exactly what they need. So we give them the narrative, we tell them the story. Okay? Interesting? So, and I thought that was such an important thing because it shows how important it is that we listen well when our children talk to us, even when they're just asking questions or expressing things. You see that when there are questions asked, there are carefully designed answers that answer that question. When there aren't questions asked, we have our narrative. Right? It's a different thing. If you speak and you're coming to speak to people and they didn't ask you anything, you have your speech. But if you're having a discussion, you're giving multiple speeches, right? Because you're responding to each nuance, to each thing. But the truth is that that the Rasha and the She'eni Yadei Elisha, they really are asking a question. They just don't know it. They're not feeling. The Rasha and the She'eni Yadei Elisha aren't feeling the fire. They're not feeling the passion. They're not feeling the hineni. They're not feeling that. The Rasha's way of dealing with it is resentment. The She'eni Yadei Elisha's way of dealing with it is indifference. But they really are dealing with the issue that there's no fire. And that's why they really do, in a certain sense, get the same answer. It's a little bit more nuanced. It's not exactly the same nuance to each one, but the answer is, it was all about this. We came out of Mitzrayim so that we could serve Hashem. Ba'avor zeh, so that we could serve Hashem. So that we could do Hashem's Kedei Shenasa Mitzvah, so Rashi says, on the words Ba'avor zeh. Asa Hashem li b'tzeis Yisrael. All the miracles, the whole world changed. Hashem turned over the entire world because to give us this chus to be able to serve Him. And I think that in order to be able to give that answer, we have to be alive in that answer. We have to be feeling that. The words aren't good enough. When we sit by the Seder, just to be able to that was a good question. Let me see if I have it in my notes. That's not the answer that our children need. They can go to yeshiva for that. They don't need their parents for that. Their parents, which is the ones who gave them life, which are the ones that they're everything. Their parents are there to share with them that this is our everything. That this is the greatest zechus that we have. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu was just like unstoppable love for us on the night of the Seder. That Hashem stopped and turned over the entire world, did things that are impossible in this world to take His nation out of Mitzrayim, because He wanted us to get the Torah, because He wants to be close to us. He wants to give us that opportunity to be close to Him. And we need to prepare for the Seder, not with the information. It's good to be prepared with information, but we have to be prepared. That's the work of our Hineni. We have to be prepared that when we come to the Seder, tired, exhausted, that we're excited. It's easy to say, right? It's easy to say, and in our hearts we're excited. But sometimes we just feel like we're managing the Seder. Some people, unfortunately, sometimes feel like they're surviving the Seder. And that's not what the She'eni Yedei Elishal and the Rasha need. You know, the resentful child or the indifferent child. And it's not what the Chacham and the Tam need. They all need to be getting this message from us that this is our fire. The Chacham and the Tam have it already on some level. So we're building on it. The Rasha and the She'eni Yedei Elishal, they haven't absorbed that yet. But either way, it's our passion, it's our simcha, it's our gratitude to Hashem. Maybe that's something to do before the Seder, to spend a few minutes just thinking about how grateful we are to Hashem. Would you want to be part of that world out there? Would you want to be raising your children in that world out there? Would you want, with that value system? Or with that lack of value system? Like, we are so fortunate, even in Galus, even after 2,000 years of Galus, we could still say, Ashreinu, Matayv Chalkeinu, Manoim Gairolenu, how fortunate we are. And that fire is what we need to give over by the Seder. The world has, similar to what the world has done for Hanukkah, is that the world has like co-opted Pesach. Pesach is about freedom, right? It's about being free. The only issue, slight issue, and the secular world loves Passover because it's about freedom. But they have no idea what the word freedom means. They think that freedom means the ability to do whatever you want. That's not freedom. That's being a slave to something else. The ability to do whatever you want is being a slave to my impulses, slave to my desires. That's what it is. It's just another slavery. Free is a life that allows us to be who we were meant to be. Free is a life that brings our midas out. The journey that Hashem leads us on. Sometimes we resist. Sometimes Hashem is pulling us on a journey and we're like, no, Hashem, I don't want to go there. No, let's make a left, not a right, But HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what we need. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes us through our lives, the gishmak things and the difficult things, so that we should be able to bring out who we need to be, what we came into this world to accomplish. If we can leave this world having accomplished what we came here to accomplish, that's free. That's fully actualized. That's leaving with a smile. That's our goal. I had this, I told this to the boys today in yeshiva. I had this interesting conversation with one of my talmidim by the Shabbos table this Shabbos. He was asking me, I don't remember exactly why he brought it up. I don't even know if I knew. But he was asking me about like how a person could control themselves to get to sleep on time, not to overeat, like the regular stuff that every human being is struggling with. You all look like, yeah, how? So we were talking about that, and I had just learned something in one of Rav Volba's Sfarim, and it inspired me to give it over to him in this way, and I'm going to end with this. It inspired me to say the following, that I'll tell the mashal I gave, because there was a bottle of Diet Coke sitting in front of me when we were talking. So I said to him, let's imagine that that Coke is bad for me. I don't think we have to imagine it, by the way. But let's say Coke is bad for me. And I'm sitting there by the Shabbos table, and I have an ice-cold bottle of Coke, just opened, just the way I like it. Okay? And I want it, but I know it's not healthy for me. So I force myself not to have it. How do we think about that? We think about that what was my ratzon? What did I want? I wanted the drink. And then I forced myself not to do what I wanted. But is that really the case? Because the reality is that I don't want it, right? If I think about it, from my seichel's point of view, I don't want it. But my desire for good food is pushing me to do something that I don't want. And I'm becoming a slave to that desire. And when I choose not to drink it, I'm expressing freedom. It's really the opposite. It's really exactly the opposite. If I was able to, to truly design what I should be eating and eat what I should eat and never eat what I end up eating, that's tremendous freedom. That means that my stomach stopped telling me what to do. And I'm now doing what I want to do. Who's the I? I'm not my stomach. I'm my seichel. But we live in a world, this is true, right? We live in a world where it's shifted around. Like, I want to sleep. I have to get up. No, my body wants to sleep. I want to get up. We have to shift the way we think about it. And that's very relevant to the way we think about freedom. Freedom isn't, I'm an animal. I do whatever I want. That's not freedom. That means you're a slave to your body. You're a slave to your impulses. You're a slave to the smallest part of you. Freedom is, I get to connect with Hashem. I get to live a life of aristocracy. I get to bring out all of my kaiches. I get to rise higher and higher. That's freedom. The thing that prevents me from doing that is being mishabed me. When we are grateful to Hashem on the night of the Seder that we are free, we're grateful for the ability to stand by Har Sinai and to get 613 commandments. That's our freedom. And that's just the beginning, 613, because there are Rabbanans and all kinds of minhagim and all kinds of other stuff. And we tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we love it. Ashreinu matayvcha baruch hu Elokeinu shebara'anu l'chvayde. We're so grateful to Hashem. V'hivdi lanu min atayim. He separated us from the Goyim. V'nasan lanu es teirasa. And He gave us His Torah. We celebrate the freedom of being able to serve Hashem, not the freedom of being able to do what we want. And it's important that we repeat this, because this is not the world we live in. You know, there's going to be some Orthodox group that's going to go to the White House before Pesach, on Pesach, you know, right? I don't know who, but you know that's going to happen, right? It's going to be in the Yated and in the Hamodia, and if Yeshiva World ever gets put back up, it'll be on Yeshiva World. Okay? They went to the White House, and the president or the chief of staff or whatever it is going to say, doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, this is every administration. Like, they so identify with the Jewish value of freedom. No, they don't. No, they don't. Because our value of freedom is that we learn Torah and we do mitzvahs and we don't violate what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do. And that from the minute we open our eyes in the morning till the minute we close our eyes at night, we are told what to do, and we keep looking to find out exactly what to do because we really want to do what Hashem wants us to do. That's freedom. You tell that to the president. Okay? He wants to free Iran so they could all do many thousands of commandments. I don't think that's the way it goes. We live in a world, our sense of freedom is completely different than the world around us. To us, freedom is the freedom to serve. The freedom to serve. Those aren't words that go together usually in the English language, but it's the freedom to serve Hashem. It's the freedom to be His slave. I'm free, I get to be Hashem's slave. Right? Avodayhem, Hashem says, they are my servants. Asher Haitzesi Yosem Eretz Mitzrayim, I took them out of Mitzrayim. I freed them, now they get to be my servants. That's the freedom that we're excited about. So, first of all, just to review, let's try to put the passion into our preparation as much as possible. Don't beat yourself up. It's a stressful time, but to put the passion into it, to try to make our preparation for Yontif an act, of Hineni. And second of all, let's look out for our children to try to understand what each one is asking. Sometimes we have to listen really well to understand what they're really asking. And above all, to give them over our passion for our Yiddishkeit, to come to the Seder happy and smiling, which means a lot of looking the other way, by the way. A lot of looking the other way and not being makbid and just being mevater. There's a lot of that in going to the Seder, but we need to do that, or else the Seder ends up too stressful. And it's hard, kids are fighting. Like, I'm trying to tell you the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Forget about who's getting which pillow, you know? And finally, let's embrace Pesach as a time to be truly, truly free in the way that only a Yid understands freedom. Hashem should give everyone, the whole Klal Yisrael, l'chai kosher v'sameach, and part of the freedom should be that we shouldn't have so many thousands of our brothers and sisters having to run to shelters at night, multiple times a day, and Hashem should send us back to a free and peaceful Eretz Yisrael, with a Beis HaMikdash and Aliyah L'Regel, and we should be zeicha to be able to be part of that beautiful journey of thousands and thousands of Jews heading to Yerushalayim with our sheep, so we can bring karbanos to Hashem and Mirz Hashem. Your husband will handle the sheep, don't worry. But no, you can handle it, right? What? No? Okay, Chai Kosher V'Sameach.
I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, when you gave the shiur about Pesach, you talked about one of your Talmidim speaking about the